1971. That was the year Lacto Calamine came to India. And recently, that legacy brand underwent a complete makeover. So, what exactly does that mean? And how is that makeover tied to the business objectives? I'm going to ask a person who was at the helm of seeing this entire change. He is Sai Ponugoti, the CEO of Piramal Consumer Healthcare. And we are going to dive into the business matrix that are going to ensure that the changes that the brand has seen, as well as the other brand portfolios, result in some kind of measurable outcomes for this particular company. Sai, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to campaign.
Vinita, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm looking forward to this interaction.
So, Lacto Calamine, and it's been what, 55 years in the country now? What was the reason that you decided that the brand needed some kind of invigoration?
Yeah. So first, thanks for having me here. It's wonderful to talk about the business, the organization, and of course, some of our power brands. I would like to start calling them mega brands, and Lacto Calamine is definitely one of them, right? So a few things are changing, but a few things remain the same. So let's not overhype the change that we are doing because, for example, the formulation, the science is intact and is not changing. But fundamentally, there are five things that we are extremely excited about on lactocalamine. The first is the whole identity refresh. Uh, the aim is to be able to talk to current, educated, aware skincare consumers and be able to bridge the gap between consumers who know of the heritage lactocalamine brand but also today's consumers. So we need to be able to bridge between the two worlds, the two sets of consumers. So everything that we are doing is to be able to cater to this consumer who is much more aware and the two generations of consumers. The second one is that we are ensuring that we are able to communicate the in a manner that is science led and ingredient first. So what does lactocalamine have? Lactocalamine has important ingredients that are able to do a very good job, and some of them completely remain the same, and we are able to communicate this much better on the packaging. The third one is that we are ensuring that we are able to reach digital first consumers in a manner that they understand, and we win with these consumers. Fourth, we are able to have a wide range of portfolio. We have cleansers, we have moisturizers, we have face wash, we have sunscreen, and we know that the consumer is not anymore buying single products but using a regimen of products, and we need to be able to cater to these consumers. And finally, the last one is we need to win with an omni-channel consumer who is shopping across different channels. So we need to ensure that the product is available and accessible to consumer shopping online in a metropolitan city, shopping on quick commerce, or shopping in their neighborhood chemist store or in a cosmetic store in Kolkata, right? So these are the five things that we are excited by. We have made a lot of progress, but like I said, a few things stay the same, and we are doing that in a bold way. But the entire identity refresh has a brand new packaging and appeals to today's consumers who are much more aware, and is trying to bridge the generation gap between yesterday's consumers who are aware of it, but also today's consumers who are very different.
So I'm going to try and dissect each of these five things, and I'm going to start with what you mentioned about your reason to go ahead and appeal to the younger cohort. Now, does this mean after the entire refresh for a 50 or close to 60-year-old brand that you have several other brands also in the portfolio? Is there going to be some kind of repositioning of the other brands as well? Because you mentioned that you're now trying to reach out to more consumers who are digitally aligned. Is there going to be similar kind of moves across the portfolio?
Yeah. So, Vinita, let me step back a little bit and tell you what are the 4 5 things that have given us a lot of success on the business, because it's important to continue to execute those well, and at the same time keep evolving as a business. So fundamentally, the success we have got, a lot of success that we have got, is primarily driven by ensuring that we make smart choices, we execute with speed, and we have strong execution excellence in the last mile when we reach the consumers or shoppers in different channels, right? And the transformations we have done to give deliver strong results, cross the 1,000 crore milestone, and actually go beyond, are coming from four fundamental things. The first one is grow disproportionately our power brands with smart portfolio choices. So, be it the different categories, be it skincare, be it baby care, our objective is to ensure that we stay relevant to the consumer. uh, we essentially want to invest in fewer brands, make bigger investments, and stay consumer relevant. So, this is the first thing that's really working for us. The second one is that we want to drive innovation at a high velocity, with velocity. So, we launch, say, 50 innovations in a year. These give us 11 to 13% of our revenue. So innovation is a revenue growth engine. It's not just a buzzword for us. And the focus here is to ensure we have fewer, bigger, and better innovations. The third important aspect is we want to win with precision in the channels of the future. Because, like you said, shoppers are shopping everywhere, the shoppers are shopping omni-channel. So we want to win disproportionately in with the online consumer. E-commerce is used to be 25% of our business. It has now crossed that milestone as well, crossed 30. And quick commerce is now more than half of our overall e-commerce business. At the same time, we want to win in general trade, we want to win in the neighborhood chemist stores, we want to win in modern trade. So we are able to do this with precision and win in channels where the consumers and shoppers are shopping. The fourth one is the whole technology and embracing technology for agility, tech enablement. And here we are not just selling products, we are reading signals. We are doing everything from sharp data analytics to leveraging AI, having the right automation tools. And all of this we are seeing is giving us disproportionate benefit in operating with speed across supply chain, across manufacturing, across marketing, sales, the whole gamut of the business. So, in summary, it's about sharp choices, it's about speed, and it's about executional excellence. These are the three recipes that are giving us success on our business. And we would like to bring this approach to all brands, all categories, all our power brands that we play.
So, before I dive into the power brands, I wanted to understand, you just mentioned about the word signal. Now, since you're listening to signals, and if I were to call Piramal Consumer Healthcare as a B2B2C brand, because you are omnichannel and you're also working with a lot of retailers, you're also working with chemists, you're working with general trade, you're obviously reaching out to the end consumers through e commerce and quick commerce. How exactly are you picking out these signals since they come from disparate channels? How exactly are you also understanding which of these signals you need to filter out and then use it to see if there are certain white spaces? You mentioned about, baby care, skin care, hair care, that you need to probably lean on a little bit more, either by introducing a new product line, or letting go of something.
Yeah. Um, this is many questions in a question, but let me start maybe with e-commerce or quick commerce, because this is a business with a lot of data, right? And there you can get a lot of signals. So let me talk about this a little bit. So there are three fundamental differences between online business and general trade, right? The first one is uh, that in an offline or a general trade business, there is a first moment of truth and a second moment of truth. The first moment of truth is when the shopper sees the brand in an real store environment and makes a choice of which brand to pick up. And the second moment of truth is you take it home, use it. If you like it, great. And that's really the second moment of truth. You repeat the brand or you move somewhere else. The online business is different, that there is a zeroth moment of truth, which is all about search, right? So it's important. The first difference is you need to be able to win from search to the doorstep eventually when the product gets to the consumer. The second difference is that you need to be able to personalize and be targeted versus the broad stroke approach in general trade or an online offline business. And the third difference is you need to make every investment, every click count, right? Because you need to be efficient. You're reading a lot of signals. You need to be able to invest in the right signals and behind the right consumer, right? So these are the three big differences. And if I were to take our approach, let me start from a consumer context. So today, quick commerce, I was with a retailer recently, and they told us that they are after this consumer who has a baby, either from anywhere between 8 months to 8 years, right? This is the consumer they're going after. Now, there is a consumer in Gurgaon and there is a consumer in Bhirampur. In quick commerce, the consumer in Gurgaon, the use case is very different. It is about speed and convenience to get the product while being at home in 10 minutes. For a consumer in Behrampur, the use case is very different. There are many categories that the consumer has never discovered in their life, and they are now able to get access to these products. If I take Littles, we have wonderful toys that help in the education of children, which the consumer in Bherampur did not have access to for whatever reasons, right? And like that, there is baby wipes, there are so many skincare products and so many categories. So the use case is very different. So it's all about doing three things to win with the help of signals, with the help of data. The first is you need to be able to know how to win with this consumer. It's about content, it's about assortment, it's about ratings, it's about search, these kind of drivers. And all of these are at a pin code level. So you need a lot of analytics, you need a lot of data signals, and you need to know where to put your money, where to invest to be able to win with that consumer in a different use case in a Gurgaon or a Behrampur or a Chennai, right? The second one is about making the product available. Today we have real-time data of in at this hour, is my product available or is it not, through scraping of data. So ensuring you have the right go-to market to be able to be available. And again, this is got to do with having the right signals, etc., etc., right? Third one is really understanding the consumer, the use case, and working with retailers to come with the right brand and marketing to be able to communicate and resonate and be there for the consumer in their use case, and come up with content and advertising to be able to cater to the consumer. So yes, it's all about ensuring that you're winning with the consumer, right from search to doorstep. You are able to personalize, target the consumer, reading all the different signals that are available to win. And third is making every click count, because end of the day you have limited monies, right? So yeah, that's an example of quick commerce, and that's how all the data signals are there. There are many. These are all real time, and how you win in that
So
context.
you spoke about interpreting this data signals to understand, how to use each of them for the various use cases that are there. Especially, and you also mentioned your two power brands, which are, Lacto Calamine and Littles. Your of course, the portfolio extends to a lot more. Now, basis the signals. How do you understand, if there is some opportunity to launch a new product? Because that's a completely different thing. And there is also the scope of going wrong. A retailer might say in Behrampur that, okay, I'm going after this particular audience. And you might feel, okay, there is an option to come up with, I don't know, uh, aloe vera baby wipes or something like that. But the one in Delhi might have a completely different take on it. They might want something which is a completely different with a, pH level which is completely different. So how do you do that kind of understanding or analysis of data to see what is the product that needs to be introduced and in which pockets and which pin codes?
Excellent. So let's talk about innovation. Innovation, like I was mentioning to you, is a revenue growth driver. It is not a buzzword in our business. It contributes in a typical year between 11, 13, and sometimes even higher as a percentage of our revenue. So it's very important how we read the different signals, what products we launch, and how we succeed. We essentially evaluate our innovations. I'll talk about how we evaluate and then come to how we design. We evaluate our innovations on three vectors. The first one is we need to be able to read what the innovation is doing for us in terms of repeat rates, in terms of the distribution footprint that you're able to get, and in terms of the contribution margin that you're able to get at the end of 12 months, 18 months, right? So that's the first one. The second one that you need to really assess is the innovation resonating with the consumer? Is it relevant, and is it able to generate the sales that you need? And finally, you have to be brutal. If you need to cut and sunset a few innovations based on the evaluation criteria that you have. So it's a constant churn of being able to have innovation that is truly a revenue generation versus just being a buzzword in the organization. Now, there are three ways that we at Piramal do a great job on innovations. The first one is all about speed. So how we do this is we have innovation task force or crack teams that are cross functional teams that are able to in a swift manner come up with innovations that are relevant and that can win in the market. Again, it's a long process, but how our task force that is cross functional in nature is able to do it with speed. The second one is relevance, which is extremely important, which is how do you ensure that we are able to come up with consumer products and innovations that are relevant for the consumer. That is the second one. And the third one is ensuring that you are constantly looking at innovations that succeed. You're staying true to the core identity of the brand. If I take the example of Lacto Calamine, it's oil skin expert. That is our positioning. So how do you ensure that anything that you do on the brand, any innovation that you do on that brand, lends itself to that equity and that positioning, so you stay tight? You may be tempted many times to digress in multiple ways, but you so speed, relevance, and then ensuring that you're very consistent with your brand positioning. So I would say, in summary, innovation is a revenue driver, a growth engine for us, not a buzzword, and the results are speaking for themselves.
And since you've taken charge in the last year, have there been any brands that you have managed to or decided to sunset?
Yes, so we evaluate our innovations based on certain metrics or what we call a hit rate. Our hit rates, fortunately, have been very good, but for sure, among the multiple innovations that we do, because we do take risks, we do depend on a lot of data and signals, but sometimes there is also an intuition, and at times when we go wrong, we are bold to be able to sunset them. But good news is innovation has been a revenue growth engine, and good news is that our hit rates have been high. So there have been a few that we've had to sunset, but we've had a greater than fair share of success.
So whenever you come out with innovations, and you mentioned about the fact that relevance and consistency and speed also. So one thing about the innovation is how do you communicate the USP and the value of the innovation to your consumers? Again, I would break it into two categories: the B2B consumers and the B2C consumers. So if you're coming up with a product which has a direct bearing on the end consumer, there is a certain way you will communicate the messaging. If you're going to the retail channel, you will want to communicate in a different way on the USP of the brand. So how do you go to them and educate them, both of them separately, through your brand messaging? Because you don't want to be too verbose, you don't want to be too scientific, if I may say so, but at the same time you want the message to hit home.
Yeah. So again, it's a great question. It's what our team spend a lot of time and effort in ensuring that we perfect this, right? So there are, I would say, broadly three things. The first is being able to win with this new age consumer that is digital first, that is community led, and that is culturally nuanced, right? And let me touch upon these three things one after the other. First is we need to be able to win the trust and do it in a peer led and influence with the help of peers, right? With this digital first consumer. So, one of the things we have done is completely expand our KOL program or the key opinion leaders. We have many of them. We ensure that there is a strong sync between our influencer community. They have the same beliefs on the brand like we do, right? So that is the first aspect of winning with these consumers. The second aspect is to ensure that we are community led. For many of our products, we know that the consumers value opinions, word of mouth. So, how do you stay relevant? How do you educate consumers, and how do you win with them in that environment that they are in? Right now, it's important to ensure that you win with consumers in a regional context, in tier 2 tier 3 markets, in a language and a communication of that will click with them. And for that, it's important to win in the many Indias that are there, right, which is culturally nuanced. The consumer in a Bihar or an Uttar Pradesh or a Tamil Nadu is very different. So how do you win in the many Indias? And third is to ensure that as the consumers are the media consumption choices of the consumers are changing, you're able to follow the consumers with the right media vehicles that you resonate with them. Example, you need to be a lot more social for a skincare product or with the skincare consumer. You need to be on connected TV in order to be able to target consumers better and deliver efficiency while driving effectiveness of the communication. So, in summary, it's all about being able to win in this fast changing world where consumers are digital first, they are community led, and they are culturally nuanced.
Now, after talking about cultural nuances, let's get to some number crunching, and you can tell me if I'm on the right track. Since you spoke about digital first, right? I have here some figures which say that with from 11% of your revenue is now coming from new innovations. That's what you mentioned, right? And it rose to almost 12% in H1 FY26. So, advertising and trade promotion in FY25 stood at 125 crore. Um, how exactly are you going to be allocating the budgets between brand building? So whether it's KOL, partnerships, whether it's going to be, vernacular media that is there, connected TV that is there, seasonality also that is there, various platforms that is there, various innovations that are there. How exactly are you going to do this entire mapping?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Uh, the Like I mentioned, the media choices of the consumers are changing at a frantic pace. The first aspect is about how do we evolve as a business from being primarily TV heavy to a good mix of, from a media standpoint, of being TV, digital, and influencers. So that's a big transformation and a journey that we have accomplished, and we continue to evolve as a business. So uh, it's extremely important to have the right media mix, follow the consumer, and importantly, you need to be audience first in this approach. A skincare consumer is different from a mom who has a young baby at home, is different from a woman who is seeking wellness products for her everyday betterment. And in each of these categories, the consumer is different, the media consumption habits are different, and their consumer behavior is different. So we have an audience first approach to decide on which category, how will we allocate the monies to be able to win with the consumers in that relevant context, right? The second aspect, and if I were to take a skincare example, is that in skincare, the consumer, the traditional approach was search, but now the consumer is a lot more on social. the consumer is discovering products, educating themselves, and even clicking to be able to purchase in that environment. So how do you ensure that you are on Instagram, you are doing what is needed to follow the consumer and win with that consumer? The third one is, since you mentioned the about allocating the monies, what's extremely important is to be outcome oriented and ensure that you are a little bit scientific and data based, so that you're putting your money where you're getting the bang for the buck, right? So how do you ensure you have the right metrics, not just media metrics but business metrics, to be able to understand what the media and communication is doing for you, right? So in summary, we've been able to evolve the business to follow the consumer and ensure that we have a good media mix of TV, digital, influencer. We are able to win with consumers in different contexts, skincare consumer example in social. And third is that we are ensuring that we are data based, we are scientific, and we know what investments we are making do make sense. We do more of that and we do less of what doesn't make sense.
And what about you mentioned earlier about I would call it on ground activations, experiential marketing. Given the lot of products are KOL driven, do you see that also playing an increasing role because it gives that trust factor when mothers or people from various cohorts come experience talk about their experiences? Do you think that could also play a role in your marketing mix?
Absolutely. So let me touch upon healthcare marketing and how we view that entire space, right? So in healthcare marketing, on one side there is education, which is very important, and on another side there is brand building. If you do too much of education, the risk you have is that the consumer gets educated and chooses some other brand. And if you do too much of brand building, then you don't build trust with the consumer because the consumer definitely wants education, right? So it's important to be able to balance between the two. And we follow a model of learn, relate, choose. So learn is about being able to educate the consumer in the context on the category that the consumer really values and helps them choose the right product for themselves, right? The second one is about relate. So you need to be relevant, you need to be able to do educational storytelling to be able to resonate with the consumer and help them choose your brand. And finally the consumer is going to make a choice, and it's important for your brand to win while the consumer makes the choice versus all other options they have. So what do you need to do to be able to ensure that the consumer makes your brand as their choice? So learn, relate, choose is the model we follow for healthcare marketing, and that helps us balance between brand building and education, both of which are important, but it's important to strike the right balance between the two.
Earlier in the conversation, you also mentioned about setting a milestone, and I believe that you have outlined a goal for yourself, which is to scale beyond 200 million in revenue by FY30, and this is almost doubling the business, right? And you also want to do this while delivering double-digit EBITDA margins. Pretty ambitious, right? While you do that, and you look at achieving this target, I'm sure there will be, you would have set certain milestones to see, like we spoke about, sunsetting certain brands. It could be about rejigging certain margin levers. It could be about certain brand level growth strategies that could be there. What are those milestones that you have actually put in sand that you're going to keep tracking to see that you're on your path to achieve this target?
Yeah. First, we are excited about the goals that we have for the business and for this organization, and we are extremely clear that we have one goal that the whole organization to the last person is able to relate to and truly go after. Our fiscal year 30 goals are all about scale, margin, and reach. We are executing some important transformations on the business, and I can highlight a few of them. And on each of these transformation we have clear glide paths, numbers, and goals that our teams are working on. So let me start with the first one. We have an important transformation on whole media. Uh, we spend a lot of money on media, and we need to constantly stay in touch with the consumers, follow the consumer, and invest in media vehicles which the consumer is opting or choosing to. So how do we move towards the right media vehicles, the right balance between TV, digital, influencer, within that, all the things that come with it? And there I also talked about how do you ensure that your monies are well spent, all of that, right? The second important transformation that we are going after is on innovations. Like I said, it's an important part of our revenue. There we are going after fewer, bigger, better, and actually I would like to add faster, because in this day and age you need to be fewer, bigger, better, but you also need to be fast to market. So that's again a second area that we or a transformation that we are excited about. The third one is a profitable e-commerce growth. I talked about it's a third of our business. Quick commerce is more than half of our e-commerce business. We are growing at a very fast pace. We are clear on the four ways to be able to deliver profitable growth transformation on this business. And for each of those four areas, be it a portal mix, be it product mix, be it our acquisition costs, we have clear glide path and clear metrics defined that we need to achieve every quarter and every year to drive profitable growth transformation of our e-commerce business. The next one is our go to market and offline general trade business. We are perfecting a model where we want to be able to sell our wide portfolio of products, do justice to being able to build sales excellence capabilities to drive both depth and breadth of distribution across the channels, be it chemist channel, be it cosmetic stores, or all the different channels that we serve. The next one is operational excellence transformation. We need to be able to, we've just seen what has happened to the crude prices. We need to be constantly coming up with the cost savings programs that can ensure that we are able to give the consumer the right value, and for that we need to have the right cost structures across all the areas or all the buckets of pools of costs that we have. We need to be able to leverage digital, have the cost savings programs to be able to deliver operational excellence in a very good way. The final one is about organization. I'm talking it last, but it's probably the most important. And here we are transforming our organization and the capabilities and upgrading our talents. There are three focus areas over here. The first is we are building certain cultures. We are building a digital culture. We are building a beauty culture. We have figured out what culture we need to be build in order to be able to succeed on the strategies that we have set out for ourselves. The second one is we've also identified clear cultural priorities for our business. These are consumer and customer centricity, seamless collaboration, empowered accountability, and it's important to bring these to life in our organization in the right way, right? And third one is really building skills and organization capabilities of the future. We may not see it today, we may not have them today, but we need to look 2 years out, 3 years out. Remember, we have our excellent fiscal year 30 goals, which we need to deliver, for which we need organization skills and capabilities to evolve. So in summary, we have these 6 transformations that we are excited about, which will help us deliver the goals. For each one of them, we have clearly identified glide path, targets, KPIs, and yes, we are excited about our goals, and it's all about margin, reach, and scaling up our business at a frantic pace.
So, if I were to just end off with one single question, you've spent a lot of years with one of the leading FMCG brands across various geographies, and some of them very tough geographies, especially in Southeast Asia. You know, you worked in Singapore, Vietnam, and Switzerland. I'm sure you have implemented some of those learnings from their playbook over here at Piramal as well. What are those top three things that you have implemented or are trying to implement here?
Yeah. Again, a great question. I returned to India from Vietnam in 2022. But yes, very excited about the journey over the past 1 year plus at Piramal in scaling up the business. Uh, the learnings over the years have been tremendous, and in different cultural contexts, you pick up so many things that can be reapplied. Of course, both ways, right? What you pick up in India for the pace of the business here, you can apply there, and then vice versa. So let me talk about the three things. And I'll start with something that is a little bit similar, which is that just like India, Vietnam has a north, south, central, and the consumer is very different in different parts of Vietnam, right? And similarly in India, it's many Indias in India. If you are not designing for that consumer and you are not granular enough, and if you have a broad stroke approach to consumer centricity, you're not going to win, right? So that's the first big takeaway, and I would say it is similar. How you apply it is different in context. A consumer in southern Vietnam, Mekong Delta region is very different from a consumer in the central or the northern Hanoi region, and similarly is in India. But again, I talked about cultural nuances, regional nuances, winning in the many Indias. The second one I would say is the whole organization culture. How do you empower your people, not step on to their shoes, but really empower them and ensure that you give them the right support, you build the right skills, you build the right capabilities, but truly empower them to help them unleash and bring the best selves to work, to every single minute that they spend in the office or in their working day, right? That would be the second one. And the third one I would say is constantly looking outside, bringing the outside in, versus being in a zone where you think that you know everything. I like to call it growth mindset, where you're constantly, you know what you're good at, but you're constantly looking out to see what can I learn. You're approaching it with the bias of there is, I can constantly become better, I can learn from what I observe in the environment. I'm not the only one who is best at everything, and you constantly bring outside in into the business, right? When you are in some of these multicultural contexts, you learn to be humble, you learn to respect the environment, and you stay a lot more humble as a leader, and you also try to bring that humility into the organization and encourage leaders to learn outside in and be shameless in reapplying something that you think is very good that can benefit as a business.
Well, I'm guessing that outside in approach will definitely will come in very handy with the kind of goals that you have for FY30. And I'm sure it will also be something that your team is going to be grateful for, because most of the time, like you said, humility is something that they expect and would really appreciate from their management. Thank you so much, Sai, for taking the time to speak to Campaign.
Yeah. Thank you, Vinita. It was wonderful chatting with you. And yes, it's wonderful knowing you as well.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
So if you like the video, here's what you need to do. Click like, follow, and subscribe our channel. Hit the bell icon right below. And more importantly, drop us your comments. So go on, do your thing.